Part 1. The Breaking Point. Elena Vasquez walked through the cold metal corridors of the Galactic Council building. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. She had walked these same halls hundreds of times over the past 3 years. But today felt different. Today would be the last time. The main council chamber was huge, bigger than any building Elena had ever seen on Earth. 47 different species sat in their special seats, each one designed for their particular needs. Some breathed different air, so they sat inside clear bubbles. Others needed different gravity, so they floated in special fields. The Zephyrians looked like giant crystals that glowed with inner light. The Vorthans were covered in thick fur and had 6 arms each. The Altarians looked almost human, except their skin was blue and they had no hair. Elena took her place at the small human podium. It was positioned lower than all the others, a constant reminder that humans were considered the youngest and least important species in the galaxy. She looked up at the Council Prime, a Zephyrian named Vexhari, whose crystal body pulsed with different colors when he spoke. The human delegation may present their final appeal, Vexhari said, his voice coming through the translation device as a cold, emotionless tone. Elena had prepared a speech about fairness and justice. She had planned to ask once more for the Council to reconsider their latest decision. Just that morning, they had voted to force humans off 12 different worlds to make room for Zephyrian mining operations. When Elena had stood up to object, Vexhari had waved one of his crystal appendages dismissively. Junior species must learn their place, he had said. The needs of established civilizations come first. Those words echoed in Elena's mind as she looked around the chamber. For 3 years, she had watched the Council treat humanity like children. They had taken away human weapons, saying they were too dangerous. They had limited where humans could live, claiming it was for galactic balance. They had taxed human trade routes so heavily that many colonies struggled to survive. Every time Elena had complained, the Council had the same response. Humans were too young, too violent, too primitive to understand how galactic society worked. They needed to be guided and controlled for their own good. Elena threw away her prepared speech. 3 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council with hope. She began. We believed we could find our place among the stars through cooperation and mutual respect. We were wrong. A murmur went through the chamber. Several representatives shifted in their seats. They had expected Elena to beg and plead, as she had done so many times before. We have followed every rule you set for us. We have paid every tax you demanded. We have accepted every restriction you placed on our people, and in return you have treated us like servants in our own homes. Elena's voice grew stronger as she spoke. You moved our people off fertile worlds to make room for your mining equipment. You banned our ships from trade routes that humans discovered and mapped. You forced us to destroy our defense fleets while your own military grows stronger every year. Vexhari's crystal body flashed red, a sign of irritation. The human delegation will remember its place and show proper respect. No, Elena said simply. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. In 3 years of council meetings, no one had ever said no so directly to the Council Prime. No, Elena repeated. We will not remember our place because our place is not beneath you. We will not show respect to those who have shown us none. She pulled out a formal document and held it up for everyone to see. The Terran Federation hereby withdraws from all peace negotiations with the Galactic Council. We dissolve our membership in this organization, effective immediately. The chamber erupted. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once, their various languages creating a chaos of sound even through the translation systems. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others seemed angry that humans would dare to defy the Council. Elena continued speaking over the noise. For 3 years, you have told us that might makes right. You have shown us that the strong rule the weak. You have taught us that the only language you understand is power. She paused and looked directly at Vexhari. Thank you for the education. We will put it to good use. Elena turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear Vexhari calling for order. She could hear representatives demanding to know what the humans thought they could accomplish on their own. She heard someone laugh and say that humans would be begging to return within 6 months. As Elena reached the door, she turned back one last time. "You wanted to teach humanity its place in the cosmic order," she said. "Consider this your final lesson. Humans don't have a place in your order. We make our own." The chamber fell silent as Elena walked out. Her footsteps echoed in the vast space, the only sound in a room full of the galaxy's most powerful beings. Outside the council building, Elena's assistant, David Chen, waited with their shuttle. He was young for a diplomat, barely 30, but he had sharp eyes and a good mind for politics. "How did they take it?" David asked as they walked toward the landing pad. "About as well as you'd expect," Elena replied. "They think we're bluffing. They think we can't survive without them." David nodded. "And can we?" Elena smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "David, these people have no idea what humanity is capable of. They've seen us at our most diplomatic, our most restrained. They think that's all we are." Their shuttle lifted off from the council world, carrying them away from the center of galactic civilization. As they entered hyperspace, Elena opened a secure communication channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador Vasquez," she said into the transmitter. "Operation Independence is a go. Repeat, Operation Independence is a go." The response came back immediately in a voice Elena recognized as Admiral Sarah Chen, David's older sister and one of the most brilliant military minds in human space. "Understood, Ambassador. We've been ready for this day for a long time. The real war begins now." Elena looked out the shuttle window at the stars rushing past. Somewhere out there, in hidden bases and secret facilities, humanity's true strength was stirring. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake when they decided to push humanity too far. They were about to learn what humans were really like when they stopped trying to be civilized. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace, carrying Elena home to a humanity that was done playing by other people's rules. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their meetings, secure in their belief that they had just rid themselves of a troublesome minor species. They would realize their error soon. Enough. Part 2. The Preparation. 6 months had passed since Elena Vasquez walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. In that time, the galaxy had barely noticed humanity's absence. The great trade routes still functioned. Diplomatic meetings continued as scheduled. Wars were fought and ended according to the same rules that had governed galactic politics for thousands of years. On the Council world, Vex Hari received weekly reports about the human situation. The news was exactly what he had expected. With their assets frozen and their ships banned from major trade routes, human colonies were struggling. Several outer settlements had gone dark, presumably abandoned. Human requests for basic supplies were being ignored by galactic merchants. "The humans are learning their lesson," Vex Hari told the weekly council meeting. "Our intelligence suggests their government is close to collapse. They will return to us within the year, properly humbled." The other council members agreed. The Zephyrian Mining Consortium had already begun operations on 3 of the former human worlds. Profits were excellent. The Vorthon military had moved their newest base to the Tau Ceti system, right where humans used to have their largest shipyard. Everything was proceeding according to plan. But in the outer rim of the galaxy, far from the shipping lanes and communication networks that connected civilized space, a different story was unfolding. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Facility 7, watching the latest batch of ships take shape in the massive construction bays below. The facility was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid in a system that didn't even have a name, just a number in the star charts. To anyone passing by, it looked like empty space. "Status report," Sarah said to the technician beside her. "Bay 1 through 15 are on schedule," the woman replied, checking her tablet. "The new Terra-class dreadnoughts will be ready for final testing in 2 weeks. Bay 16 through 30 are producing the smaller ships, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels." Sarah nodded. The Terra-class ships were humanity's answer to the elegant, graceful vessels favored by other galactic species. Where alien ships curved and flowed like living things, human ships were angular blocks of armor and weapons. They looked crude and primitive to alien eyes, which was exactly the point. The galaxy species had made their ships beautiful because they believed war should be elegant. Humans had made their ships ugly because they believed war should be won. "What about the new weapons system?" Sarah asked. "Exceeding expectations," the technician said with a grin. "The magnetic accelerators are hitting targets at ranges the aliens don't think are possible, and the new armor plating is stopping their energy weapons like their flashlights." Sarah walked to the next observation window. This one showed the training facilities, where thousands of soldiers practiced with equipment that looked nothing like what the Council had seen during humanity's diplomatic years. The Council thought humans used simple chemical explosives and basic projectile weapons. They were right in a way. They just had no idea how advanced human chemical explosives and projectile weapons had become. "Any word from the other facilities?" Sarah asked. The technician consulted her tablet again. "Facility 12 reports their electronic warfare division is ready. They've been practicing on minor alien systems. Nothing traceable, just learning how their technology works. Facility 3 has completed the new fighter squadrons, and Facility 1 says the special operations teams are eager for their first mission." Sarah smiled. Facility 1 was where humanity trained its most dangerous soldiers, the men and women who could infiltrate alien worlds, sabotage enemy installations, and disappear without a trace. The Council had never seen these people because they had never needed to exist during the diplomatic years. A communication alert chimed, and Sarah accepted the incoming message. Elena Vasquez appeared on the screen, speaking from her office on Earth. "Admiral, we've just received intelligence that the Council is planning to expand their operations into the Centauri system," Elena said. "They want to establish a monitoring station there to watch for signs of human military activity." "How thoughtful of them to provide us with a target," Sarah replied. "When do you want us to begin?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "Sarah, once we start this, there's no going back. The galaxy is going to see what humanity really looks like when we're not trying to be diplomatic. Elena, the galaxy made that choice for us when they decided to treat us like children," Sarah said. "We tried their way. We followed their rules. We bent over backward to fit into their system, and they spat in our faces." Sarah looked down at the construction bays where humanity's war machine continued to take shape. "Besides, it's too late to stop now even if we wanted to. Do you know how many ships we've built in the last 6 months? How many soldiers we've trained? How many weapons we've stockpiled?" Elena leaned forward. "How many?" "Enough," Sarah said simply. "More than enough." The communication channel included David Chen, Elena's assistant who had since been promoted to deputy ambassador. He spoke up from his office on Mars. "What about the other human colonies, the ones that went dark?" he asked. Sarah's smile grew wider. "They didn't go dark, David. They went quiet. Every single human settlement that the Council thinks has been abandoned is actually a military base now. We've been moving people and resources around for months, making it look like we're collapsing when we're actually consolidating." She pulled up a holographic map showing human space. Red dots marked military installations, blue dots showed hidden supply depots, and green dots indicated civilian populations that had been secretly relocated to safer systems. "The Council thinks there are maybe 50,000 humans left in space, barely scraping by on a few struggling colonies," Sarah continued. "The real number is closer to 5 million, and every single one of them is ready for war." Elena stared at the map. 5 million? How did we hide 5 million people? "The same way we hid 300 warships and the largest military-industrial complex in this part of the galaxy," Sarah replied. "We learned from our mistakes. We showed the aliens exactly what they expected to see, and we kept everything else secret." David frowned at his screen. "What if the Council has spies? What if they know more than they're letting on?" Sarah's expression grew cold. "David, the Council species have been at peace for so long that they've forgotten how to think like enemies. Their idea of intelligence gathering is asking polite questions at diplomatic parties. They have no idea how to run a spy network." She gestured to the facilities around them. We, on the other hand, have been perfecting the art of warfare for our entire existence. While they were building pretty ships and elegant cities, we were learning how to hide armies and plan invasions. Elena made her decision. Admiral, you have authorization to begin Phase 2. Target the Centauri monitoring station as planned. Understood, Sarah replied. When do you want to send the message? What message? Sarah's smile was not pleasant. Elena, we're not just going to attack their station. We're going to broadcast it live to every system in the galaxy. It's time the Council learned who they've been dealing with. The connection ended, and Sarah turned back to watching the construction phase. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see humanity's true face for the first time. The face they had kept hidden while they learned their enemies' weaknesses and built the tools to exploit them. The Council had spent months congratulating themselves on putting the humans in their place. They were about to discover that humanity's place was wherever they chose to put themselves, and they chose to put themselves at the top. Part 3. The Declaration. The message began broadcasting at exactly 12 Kraus Galactic Standard Time, overriding every communication network in known space. On thousands of worlds, beings of dozens of species stopped what they were doing as their screens flickered and changed to show a familiar face. Elena Vasquez appeared before them, but she looked different from the diplomatic ambassador they remembered. Gone were the formal robes of office. Instead, she wore the dark blue uniform of the Terran Defense Force, a military organization that most aliens thought had been disbanded years ago. Her hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes held a hardness that had not been there during the diplomatic years. Citizens of the galaxy, Elena began, her voice automatically translated into thousands of languages. My name is Elena Vasquez, speaking for the Terran Federation. 6 months ago, I stood before your council and offered humanity's withdrawal from galactic politics. Today, I stand before you to explain what that withdrawal means. On the council world, Vexhari watched the broadcast from his private chambers. He had been reviewing reports from the mining operations on former human worlds when the transmission began. His crystal body flickered with annoyed red light. Pathetic, he muttered to his aide. The humans are trying to save face with empty threats. Cut the transmission. We cannot, Prime Vexhari, the aide replied nervously. They are using some kind of override protocol we have never seen. The signal is coming from everywhere at once. Elena continued speaking on the screen. For 3 years, humanity tried to find its place in your galactic community. We followed your laws, paid your taxes, and accepted your restrictions. We believed that cooperation and compromise would earn us respect and equality. The image shifted to show a series of documents and recordings. Trade agreements that heavily favored alien corporations. Military treaties that left humanity defenseless. Council votes where human objections were dismissed without discussion. We were wrong, Elena said as the images played. Your council does not respect cooperation. It sees compromise as weakness. It treats equality as a threat to the natural order. In the Vorthon home system, Military Commander Thacker watched the broadcast with growing unease. The humans were speaking differently now, with a confidence that seemed dangerous. Shut off the broadcast, Thacker ordered his communications officer. Sir, we cannot. The signal is overriding our entire network. Even our military channels are carrying it. Elena's image returned to the screen. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed what looked like a star map of the galaxy. Your council taught us that the universe belongs to whoever can hold it by force, that the strong naturally rule the weak. That might makes right. Elena's expression grew colder. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it well. The star map changed, zooming in on the Centauri system. Red dots appeared, showing the location of the new council monitoring station that had been built to watch for human activity. Today, the Terran Federation reclaims what was taken from us, Elena continued. Every human world that was seized, every trade route that was closed to our ships, every insult to our sovereignty, all of it will be answered. At that moment, ships began appearing on sensors throughout the galaxy. Not just a few ships, but fleets. Massive formations of angular weapon-heavy vessels that seemed to materialize from empty space. They moved with precision and purpose, heading toward strategic targets across known space. The largest fleet appeared, around Kepler Station, the Council's primary trade hub. The station's defensive fleet scrambled to intercept, confident in their superior technology and numbers. They had 30 ships of the latest design, equipped with energy shields and plasma weaponry that could destroy asteroids. The human fleet had 12 ships. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force," came a broadcast on all frequencies. "Kepler Station, you are ordered to surrender all Council military personnel and assets immediately." The station commander, a proud Zephyrian named Kolseth, responded with contempt. "Human primitives, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we may be merciful." "Negative," Admiral Chen replied. "You have 30 seconds to comply." Kolseth laughed, the sound carrying clearly over the communication channel. 30 seconds? What can you possibly do in 30 seconds with those crude ships? 29 seconds later, he found out. The human weapons were not energy beams or plasma cannons. They were chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic fields. Simple, primitive projectiles that alien shields were not designed to stop. The Council ships had spent centuries perfecting defenses against energy weapons. They had no defense against a piece of steel moving at 20% of light speed. The first human salvo punched through 6 Council ships like they were made of paper. The second salvo finished off the rest. In less than 5 minutes, Kepler Station's entire defensive fleet was floating debris. "Station Commander," Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system again. "Do you wish to surrender now?" Kolseth stared at the wreckage of his fleet in shock. "Impossible. Our shields should have stopped those weapons. Our armor should have absorbed the impact. Your shields stop energy. Your armor deflects plasma. Our weapons are neither," Admiral Chen replied. "This is your final warning." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out at dozens of strategic locations. Human fleets appeared without warning, destroyed local defenses with terrifying efficiency, and then broadcast the same message: surrender or be destroyed. Elena's face returned to screens throughout known space. The Galactic Council spent 3 years teaching humanity that the only language you understand is power. Today, we speak that language fluently. The broadcast shifted to show real-time footage from the various battle sites. Alien ships exploding, space stations surrendering, trade routes being seized by human forces. You called us primitive because our weapons are simple. You mocked us as barbarians because we preferred war to your elegant diplomacy. You dismissed us as children who needed to be guided and controlled. Elena paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a threat that made beings across the galaxy shiver. Children grow up. Barbarians learn to use better weapons. And primitives sometimes turn out to be predators that were only sleeping. On the Council world, Vexhari watched his carefully ordered galaxy dissolve into chaos. Reports were coming in from everywhere. Human fleets at strategic points, trade routes under human control, military installations surrendering rather than face destruction. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded of his intelligence chief. We do not know, Prime. They appear to be everywhere at once. Our estimates said they had perhaps a dozen outdated vessels. But we are seeing evidence of hundreds of modern warships." Elena's voice continued from the broadcast. "The Terran Federation hereby claims exclusive control over all systems within 50 light-years of any human settlement. Any Council ship found in these areas without permission will be destroyed without warning." The implications were staggering. The areas Elena was claiming contained some of the galaxy's most important trade routes and resource nodes. If humans could actually enforce such a claim, it would cripple the galactic economy. Furthermore, Elena continued, all previous agreements signed between humanity and the Galactic Council are hereby null and void. All human assets seized under Council authority must be returned immediately. All humans relocated against their will may return to their original homes. Vexhari's crystal body flashed panic yellow. "This is madness. They cannot enforce such demands." As if she could hear him, Elena smiled coldly. Some of you may believe these demands cannot be enforced. You may think that humanity lacks the strength to challenge the established order. Let me be clear about our capabilities. The broadcast showed a massive construction facility, clearly of human origin. Hundreds of warships filled the bays, with more being built continuously. The scale was incredible, larger than anything the Council had ever seen. "This is one of 15 similar facilities," Elena said casually. "We have been building for 6 months, and we will continue building for as long as necessary. Every month that passes makes us stronger. Every day that passes sees more human ships leaving the construction bays." She leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. "The Council wanted to teach humanity its place in the cosmic order. Mission accomplished. Our place is wherever we choose to stand, and we choose to stand over you." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving billions of beings across the galaxy staring at blank screens. In the silence that followed, reports continued to pour in. Human fleets at strategic positions, Council forces in full retreat. An entire galactic civilization suddenly forced to confront the reality that the species they had dismissed as primitive children had become the most powerful military force in known space. The galaxy had learned what humanity was capable of when they stopped trying to be civilized. The lesson would be remembered for generations. Part 4. The Reckoning. 3 days after Elena's broadcast, the galaxy had changed completely. What had been the established order for thousands of years crumbled in less than 72 hours. The humans did not conquer in the traditional sense. They did not occupy planets or install governors. Instead, they did something far more devastating to galactic civilization. They proved that the Council's power was an illusion. Every major trade route now had human ships controlling access. Any vessel carrying Council military supplies found itself mysteriously suffering from navigation computer failures. Alien merchants discovered that their usual business partners were suddenly unwilling to trade with anyone who still supported the Council. Most disturbing of all, several Council military installations had simply gone dark, their communication arrays destroyed by weapons that no one had seen coming. In the emergency Council session on Harmony 7, panic filled the chamber. Representatives, who had been allies for centuries, now turned on each other with desperate fury. "This is your fault," shrieked the Altarian delegate at the Zephyrian representative. "Your mining operations pushed them too far." Vexahari's crystal body pulsed angry. "Red, we followed standard procedures. The humans were a junior species. They had no right to those worlds." "No right?" The Vorthan military commander stood up, his 6 arms gesturing wildly. "They are making us look like fools. Our greatest fortress. Worlds cannot even maintain communication with each other." Commander Thacker was right to be worried. Just that morning, the Vorthan stronghold at Epsilon Eridani had reported strange readings on their sensors. Long-range scans showed nothing unusual, but their defensive systems kept detecting incoming threats that disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Then the power grid failed. Then the communication array went silent. Then nothing. A rescue mission, sent to investigate, found the fortress completely intact but completely empty. 10,000 Vorthan soldiers had simply vanished without a trace. No signs of battle. No evidence of forced entry. Just empty corridors and the lingering smell of human military rations. The psychological impact was greater than any direct military assault could have achieved. If humans could make an entire fortress population disappear without anyone noticing, what else could they do? Dr. Kethara, the Council's leading expert on alien psychology, had spent the last 3 days studying every piece of human culture she could find. Her report to the emergency session was even more disturbing than the military disasters. "We made a fundamental error in our assessment of human nature," she told the assembled representatives. "We observed them during their most peaceful period and assumed that was their natural state. We saw 3 years of diplomatic behavior and concluded that humans were naturally cooperative." She activated a holographic display showing human historical data. "The reality is that humans have been at war continuously for over 10,000 years. They have fought each other, their environment, disease, natural disasters, and anything else that challenged their survival. The 3 years they spent in our diplomatic corps represent the longest period of sustained peace in their entire recorded history. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had mistaken humanity's greatest act of self-restraint for weakness. Furthermore, Dr. Kithara continued, our intelligence services focused entirely on official human government activities. We monitored their military, their trade, their diplomatic communications. We never investigated what they might be doing. In secret, because we assumed they lacked the capability for large-scale deception. Vexhari's crystal form flickered with confusion. How could we have missed such massive military preparations? 15 construction facilities, hundreds of warships, millions of personnel? Because they hid them from us, Dr. Kithara replied simply. Not through advanced technology or superior intelligence networks, but through basic operational security that we forgot existed. They built their facilities and systems we never bothered to explore. They used resources we dismissed as worthless. They trained their personnel in locations we considered uninhabitable. She showed another display, this one mapping human space as the Council had understood it versus the reality. The difference was staggering. Where they had seen a few dozen struggling colonies, there were actually hundreds of thriving settlements. Where they had identified resource shortages, humans had been stockpiling materials for months. We saw what they wanted us to see, Dr. Kithara concluded. And we believed it because it matched our assumptions about their capabilities. The Altarian delegate shook his blue head in disbelief. But their technology was primitive, chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. Their technology is primitive, Dr. Kithara agreed. But they perfected it in ways we never imagined possible. Our energy shields are designed to stop plasma and particle beams. They do nothing against simple metal projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Our armor plating can absorb tremendous heat and energy. It cannot withstand the kinetic impact of a tungsten rod accelerated by magnetic fields. She pulled up footage from the Kepler station battle. They defeated our most advanced defensive fleet using weapons that our great-grandfathers would have recognized, not because their technology is better than ours, but because they designed their technology to exploit our weaknesses while we were designing ours to showcase our sophistication. The emergency session devolved into chaos as species that had been partners for millennia began blaming each other for the disaster. The Zephyrians accused the Vorthans of military incompetence. The Vorthans blamed the Altarians for diplomatic failures. The Altarians pointed fingers at the Zephyrians for starting the conflict with their mining demands. While the Council argued, humanity's actions across the galaxy became bolder. The Zephyrian mining consortium found their entire commercial fleet trapped in what appeared to be naturally occurring hyperspace anomalies, except the anomalies seemed to follow their ships wherever they went. Human vessels navigated the same space without difficulty. Vorthan military bases reported equipment failures at a rate that suggested systematic sabotage, but their security systems could find no evidence of intruders. Altarian trade negotiations collapsed when their partners received anonymous messages detailing exactly what the Altarians had said about them in private council sessions. The most unnerving development was how precisely targeted the human actions were. They struck exactly where each species was most vulnerable, suggesting intelligence-gathering capabilities far beyond what anyone had suspected. How do they know so much about our internal operations? Demanded the Rigelian ambassador, whose species specialized in information security. Because we told them, Dr. Kithara replied grimly. 3 years of diplomatic meetings, 3 years of trade negotiations, 3 years of cultural exchanges. We shared everything with them, assuming they were too primitive to use the information. Effectively, she showed communication logs from the diplomatic years. Look at this. Ambassador Vasquez asking innocent questions about our military protocols. Human trade negotiators requesting detailed information about our economic systems. Human cultural attachés studying our political structures. The evidence was damning. Every piece of information that humanity was now using against them had been freely provided during the diplomatic years. The humans had not infiltrated their systems or stolen their secrets. The Council had handed everything over willingly, confident that the primitive humans could never turn such information into effective intelligence. Vexhari's crystal body dimmed to a dull gray, the color of despair among his species. So what do we do? How do we fight an enemy that knows everything about us while we know nothing about them? The answer came from an unexpected source. A communication request arrived from Elena Vasquez herself, transmitted directly to the emergency session. After a brief debate, the council voted to accept it. Elena appeared on the main screen, still wearing her Terran Defense Force uniform. Behind her, the walls showed tactical displays of human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Honored council members, she began, her voice carrying none of the diplomatic courtesy they remembered. I understand you are having some difficulties adjusting to the new reality. I am prepared to offer you a solution. Vex Hari found his voice. What do you want, human? Elena smiled, and the expression was not pleasant. The same thing you wanted when you had the power to demand it. Complete surrender. The council chamber erupted in outrage, but Elena continued speaking over the noise. You will withdraw all military forces to your home systems immediately. You will return all assets seized from human settlements. You will grant the Terran Federation complete autonomy within our claimed territories. And if we refuse? Challenged the Vorthan commander. Elena's smile grew wider. Then tomorrow you will discover what happens when humanity stops playing with you and starts treating you as an actual threat. The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. They had taught humanity that the galaxy belonged to whoever could hold it by force. The lesson had been learned perfectly. Now they were about to discover what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Part 5. The New Order. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Elena Vasquez returned to the council chambers. But this time, she was not asking for permission or pleading for fair treatment. This time, she was dictating terms to what remained of galactic civilization. The Great Assembly Hall looked very different from Elena's last visit. Where once 47 species had sat in confident authority, now only 31 remained. Some had withdrawn from galactic politics entirely, preferring isolation to the chaos that had consumed known space. Others had been absorbed by stronger neighbors desperate to present a united front against the human threat. A few had quietly signed separate peace agreements with Terra and were notably absent from the proceedings. The survivors sat in their environmental pods with the subdued air of beings who had learned harsh lessons about their place in the universe. Gone was the casual arrogance that had once filled the chamber. In its place was the nervous tension of prey animals trying to negotiate with an apex predator. Elena walked to the central podium, not the smaller, lower platform that humans had been assigned during the diplomatic years, but the main speaking position traditionally reserved for the Council Prime. Vex Hari, his crystal body dimmed to a pale gray, made no attempt to object. Honored representatives, Elena began, using the traditional diplomatic greeting with only the faintest trace of mockery. I have come to finalize the terms of galactic reorganization. The Altarian delegate shifted nervously in his atmospheric pod. Ambassador Vasquez, surely we can find some middle ground, some compromise that serves everyone's interests. Elena looked at him with the same expression a teacher might give a slow student. Commissioner Veltar, you had 3 years to find middle ground when humanity was interested in compromise. You chose instead to treat us as servants. The time for negotiation ended when you voted to relocate our people to make room for mining equipment. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic space. Large sections were now marked in blue, indicating human-controlled territory. Trade routes that had once connected the galaxy's major systems now terminated at human checkpoints. The terms are simple and non-negotiable, Elena continued. First, all species will recognize the Terran Federation as the legitimate authority within our designated territories. No galactic organization may interfere with human internal affairs. Vex Hari's crystal form flickered with dim red light. But this creates autonomous zones throughout the galaxy. It destroys the unity we have built over millennia. Yes, it does, Elena agreed pleasantly. Perhaps you should have considered that before teaching us that unity meant submission to your authority. She moved to the next point. Second, all previous sanctions, restrictions, and special taxation imposed on human activities are permanently abolished. Human ships will have unrestricted access to all trade routes and facilities. The Rigelian ambassador spoke up. That gives you preferential treatment over species who have been part of galactic civilization for thousands of years. Correct, Elena replied. We learned from your example that preferential treatment goes to whoever has the strength to demand it. If you would like to challenge our strength, please feel free to try. The chamber fell silent. Every species present had already tested human military capabilities in small ways over the past year. The results had been uniformly disastrous. Human weapons had proven effective against every defensive system in use. Human intelligence networks had demonstrated the ability to strike anywhere, anytime. Most importantly, human military doctrine showed a ruthless efficiency that no galactic species could match. Third, Elena continued, the Terran Federation will maintain unrestricted military forces, answerable to no galactic authority. We will station these forces wherever we deem necessary for the protection of human interests. You are describing a protection racket, protested the Vorthon commander. This is simple extortion, Elena nodded appreciatively. An excellent comparison, Commander Thakur. We learned about protection rackets from studying your own methods. The only difference is that we are more effective at them than you were. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Your old system worked by making everyone afraid to challenge council authority. Our new system works by making everyone afraid to challenge human authority. The principle is identical. We simply have better execution. Dr. Kethara, who had become something of an expert on human psychology over the past year, leaned forward in her pod. But what happens to galactic civilization? To the cooperation and progress we have built together? Elena considered the question seriously. Dr. Kethara, what cooperation? For the 3 years we participated in your system, we saw favoritism, exploitation, and the systematic oppression of weaker species by stronger ones. You called it civilization, but it was simply tyranny with better marketing. She pulled up records from the diplomatic years, showing trade agreements that favored established species, military deployments that protected only allied worlds, and council votes where minority opinions were dismissed without consideration. Under your system, progress meant that the strong became stronger, while the weak provided resources and labor. Cooperation meant doing what you were told, or facing economic and military pressure. We are not destroying galactic civilization. We are replacing it with something more honest. The Zephyrian mining representative, whose consortium had triggered the original crisis, flickered nervously. What about our existing contracts? Our established operations? All contracts signed under council authority are void, Elena replied. If you wish to continue operations in human space, you may negotiate new agreements under human law. I should warn you that our labor standards are somewhat higher than what you are accustomed to. The implications were staggering. Hundreds of trade agreements, mining contracts, and territorial arrangements had just been canceled with a few words. The galactic economy, built on thousands of years of accumulated agreements, would need to be completely restructured. However, Elena continued, the Terran Federation is prepared to offer a path forward for species willing to accept the new reality. She activated another display showing a proposed new galactic structure. Any species that formally recognizes human authority and agrees to operate under our oversight will be granted protected status. Your internal affairs will remain your own. Your trade will be defended by human forces, and your disputes will be mediated by human arbitrators. The Altarian delegate looked confused. But that makes humanity the dominant power in the galaxy. It makes you our rulers. Yes, Elena said simply. It does. The word hung in the air like a physical presence. For millennia, galactic civilization had operated on the fiction that all species were equal partners in a cooperative venture. Elena had just stripped away that fiction and revealed the truth underneath. Someone would rule, and someone would be ruled. The only question was who would be on which side. The choice is yours, Elena continued. You can accept human leadership and enjoy the protection and prosperity that comes with it. Or you can maintain your independence and deal with the consequences of that decision. She did not need to elaborate on what those consequences might be. Every species in the chamber had seen what happened to those who challenged human authority. The Rigelian defense fleet had been destroyed in 6 minutes. The Centauran Trade Federation had been economically strangled in 3 days. The Vorthon, fortress worlds had been rendered helpless without a shot being fired. Vexhari's crystal body pulsed with the dim colors of defeat. And if we agree to your terms, what guarantee do we have that you will honor your agreements? Elena smiled, and this time the expression held genuine warmth. The same guarantee you offered us during the diplomatic years. Our word and our strength. The difference is that we have demonstrated both our willingness to honor agreements and our ability to enforce them. She began gathering her materials, signaling that the session was coming to an end. You have one standard galactic week to decide. After that, we will assume that any species not formally allied with humanity has chosen independence, and we will act accordingly. As Elena prepared to leave, the Altarian delegate called out desperately, "Ambassador, please. This is not how civilized beings conduct themselves. There must be some other way." Elena paused at the chamber exit and looked back at the assembled representatives. "Commissioner Veltar, you spent 3 years teaching us that civilized behavior is a luxury that only the strong can afford. You showed us that might makes right, that the powerful naturally rule the weak, and that the universe belongs to whoever can hold it by force." She smiled one last time. "Thank you for the education. We have become excellent students." The chamber fell silent as Elena's footsteps echoed through the vast space. Outside, the human fleet waited in perfect formation, a visible reminder of the new galactic reality. Within the week, 26 of the remaining 31 species had signed formal agreements recognizing human authority. The 5 holdouts discovered that independence was a much lonelier condition than they had expected.